Hello everyone and welcome to Star Wars On High. Thank you for stopping by. We are back and I'm here to give my full, honest thoughts and review of the first two episodes of The Acolyte. I've unfortunately been very busy with work, so I haven't had a lot of time to create videos, but I am so thankful that my schedule has managed to line up in a way that allows me to review this series, as it has been my most anticipated series since its announcement at the Disney Investors Meeting back in 2020. So let's not wait any longer and jump right in. The big thing I took to heart going into this series was that showrunner Leslie Headland had mentioned that whatever you think The Acolyte is, it's not that. So clearly, whatever seemed to be the most obvious was probably misdirection, and I think we get that immediately within the first shot of the show with the crawl. It mentions that the Jedi have been at peace without conflict for centuries, which if you're a fan of the High Republic, you know that's not really true. Just 100 years prior, there was a conflict between the Jedi and the pirate marauders known as the Nile. Now, no, this is not a retcon because this was a conflict that lasted no more than 5 years, and the era of the High Republic is roughly 350 to 400 years. So a small spat between some space pirates holds nothing to the Clone Wars or the Galactic Civil War. What this does tell me though is that the Jedi have started to cover up the past. The Jedi are at their height in this era, and as a result they seem to be getting sloppy and thinking nothing can challenge them. This results in May's first conflict with Master Indara. First off, I love the setting that we get for this fight and all of the alien races we get to see. We've all been saying that there aren't enough alien races in Star Wars, and this show really added them in wherever they could, and I'm really loving it. The fight itself is amazing, and I love the choreography. I only wish that Indara's death was a little more certain. Obviously, there have been a lot of arguments lately with Disney Star Wars about characters surviving lightsaber stabs left and right, but this one is a bit different. Yes, lightsabers will cauterize wounds, so you have a higher chance of surviving if you get medical attention in time. But a knife to the heart is kind of hard to recover from, especially since it's a knife. We've all seen horror movies, we've seen how the killer always uses some blade, and a stab in the back can equal death. But also, it's noted that May is an assassin, so of course she's going to make the kill as simple as possible. I also think there's a lot of symbolism here behind this type of death. May throws the first knife towards the barkeep, which leaves Indara wide open. May uses the Jedi's weakness against them, their care for the safety of others, which is a core belief in the heart of all Jedi. So I think it's pretty poetic that May ended up stabbing Indara in the heart, not only literally, but also metaphorically. However, something still isn't adding up, and I believe it's because Indara is able to identify May, which begins the plot. Why is May hunting these Jedi? What did they do to make her go after them like this? It's a perfect way to open the series as we start to ask all of these questions. And of course, at that point, we are then introduced to Osha, a mechanic for the Trade Federation. We immediately put her on our suspect list since her partner mentions, "Why didn't you come out with us last night?" So clearly she was off doing something, but was she out killing Jedi? Well, thankfully the Jedi are here to try to get the answer to that question, and their introduction is amazing. Seeing the High Republic robes on screen is awesome. They look pristine and it puts me right into the time period, and they are pretty sound Jedi at that. Even after we establish that Yord and Osha know each other, he's quick to reach for his lightsaber as well as take her into custody when the barkeep identifies her as the one who killed Indara, only stating, "It doesn't matter what I believe." Which really gives me the vibe of Ahsoka's trial. No one would believe her either, even when she 100% was being framed, and it was only after her name was cleared that the Jedi were honestly wanting to take her back. We move on to Sol's introduction, and he's just the perfect Jedi. To me, he seems like a combination of Master Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn, which probably comes from the fact that Jung-jae based his character's demeanor and portrayal off of Qui-Gon, so that's pretty great. But the way he discusses the Force and teaches it to the younglings is amazing, explaining that the Force is powerful and that it is a power they must respect. He is a very wise Jedi Master, but I believe he's extremely flawed. And this idea came to me when Vernestra started telling Sol that Osha is a suspect in Indara's murder. We really start to piece together that something is off, mainly with his reactions to this news. He holds an attachment to Osha that's very strong, but also an attachment to the fear of the events that led Osha into the Jedi Order to begin with. Which is when we start to see how corrupt the Jedi Order is becoming. This series is supposed to show the downfall of the Jedi and how they became so vulnerable during the time of the prequel trilogy. But it's pretty easy to say that I don't think Osha is the bad guy here. She clearly did not kill Indara. She even attempted to help one of the prisoners aboard the prison vessel escape before it crashed, only for him to betray her and leave her to die. But I also love that we also get to see that Osha is not that in tune with the Force. As she tries to reach for her pip droid in order to get out of the cell, she absolutely fails. She doesn't really have that strong of a connection anymore. She does manage to survive the crash and gets a pretty freaky vision of her sister telling her that she did kill Indara and that she's going to kill them all. Now, as twins, we could assume that they are a dyad in the Force. We've kind of established that twins have a stronger connection with each other and with the Force in Star Wars, as we've had a few sets of twins, most notably, of course, being Luke and Leia. But I don't think May is strong enough in the Force to be doing this, and Osha clearly does not have that strong of a connection anymore, so who would be bridging their minds together? Could it be the supposed Sith Lord? Would the Sith Lord have any way of knowing that there are twins? But I'll touch back on that later. Sol seems ready and willing to help Osha to get to safety so they can figure out what is really going on, but I can't tell if he's doing it over his care for his former Padawan or if it's to keep the truth from coming out, as it appears that there is some sort of cover-up going on here. It's just too easy to tell. Sol tells his current Padawan Jackie about Osha and what happened when May started a fire that killed not only her, but the rest of her family. However, when Sol mentions that May was a twin, that may have been a slip of the tongue that Sol was not trying to do. Yord finds that piece of information surprising, and we can see from Sol's face that he should not have said that out loud. I think he has known the whole time that May has been alive, but when Osha mentions it to him at the end of the first episode, he decides to say, "I believe you," instead of, "Yeah, I've known this whole time, sorry for not saying anything about it earlier." But I think the decision to keep that secret is going to come back to haunt him harder than he realizes, especially since episode 2 starts off with May continuing to cross names off her list, starting with Master Torban. However, Master Torban has taken the Barash vow and can't be touched inside his meditation, which is a great touch thanks to author Charles Soule. So now, May has to figure out a way to take out this Jedi who she seemingly cannot touch. It's then that we meet our next character, Chimere, who is currently at the top of my suspect list. He's playing the part of a carefree drunk, just blending into the environment and messing around, but I feel like he's holding back a lot of information, especially when he starts to recite the Sith code. There's also the fact that May says, "I need you to make me a poison," which he starts crafting, and as he does, he says, "Torban needs something only you can give him, absolution." And well, only a Sith deals in absolutes, so yeah, highly suspicious of this guy. May returns to confront Torban again, and she's able to rouse him from his meditation with a choice: confess his crimes to the Jedi Council, or get the forgiveness he seeks from May. In doing so, he apologizes to her before taking the poison, saying, "Forgive me, we thought we were doing the right thing." So again, something happened on their homeworld of Brendok that is so bad the Jedi had to cover it up and keep it from the public, as well as the rest of the Jedi Order. So what could the Jedi have done that was so bad that Torban would rather kill himself than confess to the Council? Whatever it was, it would clearly taint the name of the Jedi. Sadly, Sol and his crew are right around the corner and miss May killing Torban. Osha has another vision of May and follows her around a different corner, leading her to Torban's body and the vial of poison, which is giving us the Chamber of Secrets treatment, where Harry is always coming across those who had been petrified just in time to get caught by a teacher. Thankfully, Yord followed her this time and was able to excuse her by saying he was with her when they found Torban, although he wasn't completely in the room with Osha. So was this Yord's way of crossing her off of his personal suspect list? Or is Yord hiding something as well? The Jedi then construct a plan to scope out the apothecary shop just outside the Jedi Temple, as May was recently seen there with an unknown individual. But with this plan, we send Osha in as May, and we get a small confession from Chimere about how the Master will be so pleased with her that she didn't use the poison. Of course, we know that she did, and Osha has the same idea and tries to play it off by saying, "No, I used it." But it seems that Chimere catches on, realizing that who he's talking to is not May. And boy, does his demeanor change quickly, again adding to why he's on my suspect list. There's no reason for him to go from the happy, playful drunk to, "You look exactly like her." He knows a lot more than he leads on with, especially when the Jedi confront him and he immediately begins to spill all of that information. Is this because he's also an Acolyte, and with May out of the way, he has no more competition for the role of apprentice? Or is he really just the supplier and has no idea why else she's doing all of this? But with yet another plan from the Jedi, we set up to confront May that night, leading to another wonderful fight between May and Sol, only this time Sol is much better trained and comes out on top. But of course, now we get some more information. May seems to be under the impression that Osha was dead, Osha thought May was dead, so is May blaming the Jedi for supposedly killing her sister? Did the Jedi actually start the fire on Brendock? But when May sees that Osha is indeed alive, Osha doesn't seem very happy to see her and takes a few stun shots at her. You gotta think, Osha grew up believing the story that the Jedi told her, that May started a fire that killed May and the rest of her family, leaving Osha as the sole survivor. But what was the story that May was told? That is the bigger mystery. Unfortunately, we will have to wait until episode 3 to get a little more information on that, but we do get a quick glimpse at Kelnaka, which shows us where we will be heading next, and I definitely believe there is still more to be unraveled before I have a sound theory. This show so far has been incredible. I've rewatched the 2 episodes multiple times now, and there's just so much rewatchability with them. Personally, I think it's because these are all brand new characters in a time that is unexplored, but it's just so much fun, and the mystery at hand is what pulls me back in. Leslie Headland did a wonderful job of constructing this story and bringing it into the mystery side of things, so I'm very much looking forward to what happens next, but as for my theories, this is what I have so far. Something happened on Brendock between the Coven of Witches and the Jedi. A fire did break out, but how that happened still remains to be seen. But the Jedi that were there took Osha in and lied to her about May starting the fire. I think there was a connection between them as twins that the Jedi could have seen as being too strong of an attachment. In order to help Osha in her training, she was told that May and her family were dead in order for her to continue without attachment. Now, May clearly did not die and may know the truth, that a fight potentially broke out, and as a result, the Jedi started a fire. Whether intentional or on accident is unknown. Perhaps the Jedi wanted to take May to be trained, but the Coven refused to give her up, and a conflict started that way. Or perhaps May was upset that her sister was being taken, and she started fighting against the Jedi, which in turn started the whole conflict. We see in the first episode that May's eyes turned black when she said she would kill all the Jedi, just as Torben's eyes turned black in a scene from another trailer, where we see him fighting against Kelnaka for some reason. I think the witch magic has a part to play here as well, but I think the Jedi ultimately messed up here, and are trying to cover it up in order to keep the name Jedi from not being smeared across the galaxy. I think this could also turn into Osha turning against the Jedi as well once she knows the truth, and that May and Osha would both be evil, or at least taking the path of the dark side. As far as who the Sith and the Acolyte are, that's a harder one. I think Chimere is a prime suspect. He may also be in the running for apprentice to a Sith Lord, whoever that may be. I still like to go with my wishful thinking and say that the Sith Lord is Darth Tenebros, mainly because of the poison that Chimere is making. Now yes, anyone can make poison in Star Wars, but I think it would be a fitting choice since Darth Tenebros was known as a well-renowned scientist, so that part would play in nicely, thinking that he trained Chimere on how to create these poisons. Or May and Chimere are in the running for secret apprentice to the apprentice of the Sith Lord, which would fit perfectly with the rule of 2 and how it usually goes, as we've seen from the novels like the Darth Bane trilogy as well as the Darth Plagueis novel. Overall, still very excited to see everything unfold and find out who is behind it all. But what are your thoughts on the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte so far? What theories are you coming up with? Let me know down in the comments below. I know episode 3 is supposed to be a big one, so stay tuned to hear my thoughts after the episode premieres. As always, thank you to everyone who stuck around to this point in the video, and we hope to see you again very soon.